Welcome back to Be Inspired from Life. Most of our suffering doesn't come from what happens to us. It comes from the fight we pick with reality the moment things don't go our way. We wake up every morning thinking we can manage outcomes, control people, bend life into the shape we prefer. And when it doesn't cooperate, we call it stress, we call it anxiety. But the Stoics saw it clearly. The problem isn't the world. The problem is where we're placing our power. Think about how much energy gets wasted trying to control things that were never ours to begin with. Other people's opinions, their loyalty, their behavior, the timing of success, the way life unfolds. You can lose years of your life trying to steer storms you were never meant to command. And, all the while, the one thing you actually can control, the way you think, the way you respond, the way you choose, gets neglected. Here's the truth that changes everything. Peace doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from wanting only what's yours to handle. When you shift your focus inward, something powerful happens. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. Stop being dragged by circumstances and start standing on principle. Life may still challenge you, but it no longer owns you. The Stoics didn't deny hardship. They prepared for it. They understood that events are neutral until we assign meaning to them. An insult is just sound until you decide it defines you. A setback is just information until you label it failure. The moment you realize that, your interpretation, not the event, is what shapes your experience. You reclaim your authority. And that authority is quiet. It's not loud. It doesn't need to dominate or prove anything. It's the calm of knowing that no matter what happens outside you, your character remains intact. That's real strength. That's unshakable ground. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, your mind clears. Decisions become simpler. You waste less energy on resentment, fear, and regret. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is this asking of me? And that shift alone turns chaos into clarity. This isn't about giving up, it's about growing up. It's about recognizing that mastery of life begins with mastery of self. Because the world will always be unpredictable. People will disappoint. Plans will break. But if you own your thoughts, your values, and your actions, nothing can truly throw you off course. Stop wrestling the world. Take command of your mind. That's where your real power has been waiting all along. Worry has a strange way of convincing us it's being helpful. It whispers that if you think hard enough, long enough, you'll somehow prevent pain, failure, or loss. But most of the time, worry isn't preparation, it's punishment. You're paying an emotional price today for a future that hasn't happened and may never arrive. And the Stoics understood this long before modern psychology put words to it. Think about how often the mind travels forward, rehearsing conversations that haven't happened, mourning outcomes that aren't real, bracing for disasters that exist only in imagination. The body reacts as if the danger is present right now. Your heart tightens, your focus scatters, your energy drains. And for what? For a story the mind invented and keeps replaying on a loop. The present moment, meanwhile, waits quietly, because this is the only place where action lives. You cannot act in the past, and you cannot act in the future. You can only act now. Worry pulls you away from that power. It makes you absent from your own life. The Stoics didn't tell people to ignore the future. They told them to respect it without surrendering to it. Preparation is grounded, calm, and purposeful. Worry is frantic and endless. One sharpens you, the other weakens you. When you prepare, you ask, what can I do if this happens? When you worry, you ask, what if everything goes wrong? One leads to strength. The other leads to paralysis. And here's the part most people miss. The future doesn't respond to anxiety. It responds to clarity. It responds to disciplined action taken in the present. Every minute you spend worrying is a minute you're not building, learning, or adjusting. You're not solving the problem. You're feeding it. When you return your attention to now, something shifts. Your breathing slows. Your thoughts organize themselves. You realize that in this moment you are still standing. You still have choices. You still have influence. The weight of imagined catastrophe begins to loosen its grip. Life will always carry uncertainty. That's not a flaw, it's a feature. But uncertainty doesn't require fear, it requires presence. The mind that stays here, right now, becomes resilient. It stops breaking under possibilities and starts responding to realities. You don't need to predict every outcome to move forward. You need to trust your ability to handle whatever arrives when it arrives, because strength isn't built by worrying about tomorrow, it's built by showing up fully today. Let go of the future you can't control and step into the moment where your power actually lives. There's a misunderstanding about acceptance that keeps a lot of people stuck. They hear the word and think it means surrender, weakness, or giving up on life. But the Stoics never meant it that way. Acceptance isn't about lowering your standards or losing your fire. It's about conserving your energy for what actually matters. Because every time you fight reality, reality wins. And you're the one left exhausted. Life doesn't ask for permission before it changes. People leave, plans collapse, doors close without explanation, and the instinct is to resist, to argue with what already is. We say, this shouldn't have happened, as if reality is waiting to be corrected. But that inner resistance doesn't undo the event. It only multiplies the pain. Acceptance, on the other hand, doesn't erase difficulty. It removes the extra suffering we add on top of it. When you accept a situation fully, something powerful happens inside you. The emotional noise quiets down. You stop wasting strength on denial and redirect it toward response. That's where strategy is born. That's where wisdom steps in. Because once you stop saying, "Why me?" you can finally ask, "What now?" The Stoics believe that obstacles aren't interruptions to the path. They are the path. Every challenge carries information. Every setback contains instruction. But you can't hear the lesson if you're busy complaining about the teacher. Acceptance opens your eyes. It lets you see clearly what's being asked of you in this moment. This kind of strength doesn't shout. It doesn't need validation. It stands steady while the world moves around it. You accept the rain not because you enjoy getting wet, but because fighting the sky won't keep you dry. So instead you adjust your pace. You change direction. You keep moving. Acceptance gives you flexibility, and flexibility is power. Rigid minds break under pressure. Grounded minds adapt. When you accept reality as it is, you're no longer trapped by it. You're free to work with it. You reclaim choice. And that's the paradox most people miss. The moment you stop resisting life, life stops feeling like an enemy. You don't become passive, you become precise. You stop burning energy on what can't be changed and start investing it in what can. Acceptance is the discipline of seeing clearly, standing firmly, and moving forward anyway. And once you master that, nothing that happens to you can take away your strength, because your strength no longer depends on how the world behaves. Fear has a way of rearranging everything in your life, but never in the right order. It clouds judgment, distorts priorities, and turns simple decisions into heavy burdens. When fear is in charge, the mind becomes loud, restless, always searching for safety in places it can't be found. But the Stoics understood something most people spend their entire lives missing. When fear steps aside, life doesn't fall apart. It falls into place. Think about it. Fear rushes you. It pushes you to react instead of respond. It convinces you that you need to control everything right now or risk losing it all. And in that panic, you make choices that don't reflect who you truly are. You compromise values. You chase approval. You hold on to things that should have been released long ago. Not because it's right, but because you're afraid of what happens if you don't. Letting go of fear doesn't mean nothing matters. It means you finally see clearly what does. When fear loosens its grip, the noise fades. You stop living in survival mode and start living with intention. Decisions that once felt overwhelming suddenly feel obvious. You recognize what deserves your time, what deserves your effort, and what no longer deserves access to your energy. Inner order always comes before outer order. The Stoics knew that a disciplined, calm mind creates a disciplined, calm life. When you're no longer driven by fear of loss, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, you move differently. You speak differently. You stand differently. Life begins to respond to that steadiness, not because you forced it to, but because you stopped disrupting it from the inside. Fear makes everything urgent. Calm make everything precise. When you're calm, you don't chase. You choose. You don't cling. You align. Relationships become healthier because you're no longer trying to fill a void. Work becomes meaningful because it's guided by purpose, not panic. Even setbacks lose their power because they're no longer interpreted as threats to your identity. And here's the quiet truth. Life has its own intelligence. It doesn't need to be bullied into place. It needs space. The more you trust your inner foundation, the less you feel the need to micromanage outcomes. You take action where you can. You let go where you can't. And in that balance, things begin to arrange themselves in ways worry never could. You don't find order by gripping tighter. You find it by standing steady. Because when fear no longer runs your mind, life recognizes the calm and meets it with clarity, direction, and purpose. Thank you so much for watching. If this video inspired you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to be inspired from life for more motivational content. And remember, no matter where you are in life, you have the power to change your future. See you in the next video.